My name is Kim Unruh, and thank you for attending these Health Master sessions, where together we will learn some unique things about enhancing our psychological functions. Session 1 is a foundational teaching where we will introduce the key concepts that will be used in creating a healthier psychology. When you consider the intricacy and speed at which your thoughts and emotions occur, it's quite amazing. Our thoughts can fire at a rate of 1,000 words per minute, which is about 5 times faster than the pace that I'm speaking at right now. We can experience multiple thoughts and emotions simultaneously as the mind retrieves messages both from our external and our internal environments, including what's happening in this moment, what we need to do next week, and what happened 20 years or more ago. Our brain is a magnificent control center where we are an active participant in its health and its functioning. Over the next 7 weeks, I would like to journey with you to explore what the frontiers of brain science are discovering and how to translate this into meaningful skills that will enable you to make lasting changes in how your thoughts and emotion functions and create a healthier psychology. No matter where you're at in your own wellness journey, this will be of value to everyone. Our psychological functions have unlimited capacity to expand and grow, much like a muscle in our body that responds to exercise and grows stronger over time. As we do this as a group, I want to include myself in this journey with you. Because no matter how much I discover about myself, I've learned that when I make one small improvement in an area of my life, the benefits appear in all other areas of my relationships, my work, and just feeling happy or overall. Each of us here today are in different places in our psychological health, but we can all benefit from making improvements. So if I had to distill the next 7 weeks into one message as to what we're going to focus on, it would be this: to gain new levels of awareness of our thoughts and our emotions, which make up a big part of our psychological functions. This includes being aware of when we are regulated or escalated. Now, I want to explain a bit more about this. An escalated state is one where we experience intense stress or feel strong emotions such as fear or anger. In these states, it can be difficult to think clearly or rationally. Versus a regulated state, which refers to a state that's relatively more relaxed or easy, where our thoughts and emotions feel more positive, things like joy or gratitude, and we're able to perform life functions more successfully. Now, over the next 7 weeks, we're going to use a number of formats to learn these skills. The first is the format that we're currently in, where we will learn in a group setting combined with practical activities designed to help us better understand our psychological functioning. The group setting, where we create engagement, is a critical element. Now, I know some people are not that comfortable in a group setting, and I can appreciate that. But please, trust this process, as we are confident it will actually help you. I will explain later in session 2 more about the power of change created in a group environment. In between these group sessions, I'd like you to go into our online community platform to complete the personal and group engagement exercises that we have there. When we try to optimize our psychological functions to perform better, it takes a consistent effort. An important element to change is consistency. All right, let's shift things. Let's start by getting up and walking around the room, and I want you to introduce yourself to 4 people. If you know the people in the room already, that's okay. It will be an opportunity to learn something new about that person by answering each of the questions on the screen and on your handout sheet. Question number 1. Tell me something about yourself that I don't know. And question number 2. What would you like to get out of these Health Master sessions? welcome back. Thanks for doing that exercise. Hopefully you know each other a little bit better. I'd like to go back to our psychological functions. We began this session by introducing the speed and intricacy of our thoughts and our emotions. So I'd like to work to create greater levels of awareness on this. So I'm going to demonstrate this first as I check into what's going on even within me right now. I have many thoughts. I'm wondering how to arrange a family event I have this weekend. I'm thinking about all that and what it's going to take. I'm thinking about you guys in the group and what's going on there. I have some concerns about a relationship that I'm in right now that's not working so well. And as I probe a little deeper, I could probably go there with that one. My thoughts are connected to my emotions for sure, but if I bring my awareness to my emotions right now, I would say mostly I feel excitement about the family event this weekend. The emotions also attached to that relationship that's not working would be some sadness. And if I go a little deeper, it feels like a hollowness in my upper chest. Just aware of that. So that's a sample of what's going on in my psychological functions. Okay, your turn. Try to reflect on what I just said, and I'd like you to close your eyes and make contact with your own thoughts and emotions. Take some deep breaths, and as you do, notice what thoughts and emotions come up for you. Now, if they jump around, know that that's normal, and just notice them without judging them. Try to identify them. Just be curious about what they are. See if you can connect with any emotions that come up. Notice the difference between a thought and an emotion. And even notice where you might be feeling some of these emotions in your body. Going to give you a few more seconds just to pay attention. All right, now open your eyes and reorient to the room. Come on back. Thank you for doing that exercise. During this exercise, you may have noticed on how some thoughts or emotions made you feel more escalated or uncomfortable, and some made you feel more regulated or more comfortable. This is an example of how our psychology functions throughout the day, and creating awareness of these functions and learning how to optimize them are critically important to overall health and well-being, as well as being directly linked to our success in life. Let me explain this more. Think of a time when you got stuck in a bunch of difficult thoughts and emotions that spiked you into an escalated state. The first thing that comes to mind for me was when I was recently late for a meeting while caught in a traffic jam, and worse, I was not even sure where I was going. This combination drove me into a highly escalated state where I needed to do some regulation exercises to calm down. How about you? Can you think of a recent time when you got escalated?
For me, getting escalated happens mostly at the end of the day, when everything happens all at once. The kids come home from school and my husband arrives shortly after that, and the demands on me at that time of the day are huge. And if something else happens that I start to feel overloaded or I get upset or hurt over something, then the stress starts coming on and that shifts me into a fully escalated state.
For me, what's most challenging about getting stuck in an escalated state is that my thinking's not very clear. My brain is just not at its best, and here's why. Under a brain scan, the middle and lower part of my brain would be lit up, indicating that I'm in a flight, fight, or freeze mode. When this happens, the frontal part of my brain is shut down, which is where our smarts are that help me to be my best and do my relationship successfully.
When I get escalated, yeah, it's probably when I make the worst decisions. I'm just not able to see the big picture, you know. My perceptions are skewed and my options are very limited. In these moments, I often react instinctively out of fear, anger, without any thoughts to the consequences of these actions.
Now, being in this state also messes up my perceptions as to how I see things. I get kind of over-concerned about stuff or wonder if people who were once for me are now against me. A friend of mine calls this catastrophic thinking. Now, if I were to stay stuck in this escalated state for like a few hours or even a few days, my stress levels would spike, along with my heart rate and my blood pressure. Staying here for a long time would wreak havoc with my body and cause my immune system to begin to deteriorate, leaving me more prone to getting sick. Now, the opposite also holds true. If I'm experiencing positive thoughts and emotions and feeling good, it's this kind of thinking and feeling that helps me stay in a more regulated state and helps me be at my best. And here's the really good news. We can learn how to shift ourselves from an escalated state back to a regulated state.
What motivates me to work through each of these Health Masters sessions is that I want to reduce how often and how intensely I get escalated in my life. I find that when I'm in a regulated state, my overall stress level is much lower, and I'm able to think more clearly and make better decisions.
When I was first challenged to make improvements to my psychology and relationship functions, I wasn't so sure what to think. At first it was awkward because my belief was that my psychology was what it was. And believing I could make changes to how it functions was hard to grasp. But as I began to invest in myself and trust the Health Masters process, I began to experience for myself that, yes, change is indeed possible. And let me tell you, that's an exciting process. So let me summarize what I just said. Number one, thoughts and emotions occur quickly and can cause us to move either into an escalated state or a regulated state. Number two, if we remain in an escalated state for too long, it negatively impacts our relationships, our performance at work, and creates mental health struggles that are painful. Number three, our earlier experiences in life can influence and shape our overall health of psychological functions, causing us to shift into an escalated state more easily and more often when we experience hard things in life. And number four, our brain is neuroplastic, and this means it can change, allowing us to learn how to bring ourselves back from an escalated state to a regulated state using what we call the de-escalation tools. All right, I would like you to do a deeper awareness exercise with me that will help us to begin developing a focus on our vast functions and our thoughts and emotions. When we begin, I'm going to ask each of you to close your eyes and try to direct your focus towards what thoughts are recurring, like what I demonstrated a few minutes back, and then switch over to focusing on your emotions. So the goal is going to be to determine the difference between a thought and an emotion, and then to evaluate the difference between those thoughts and emotions that would be considered more pleasant and easy and the ones that would be considered less easy and pleasant. Okay, let's begin. Please sit back, close your eyes, and begin deep breathing. Now I want you to take a deep breath in, hold it in, and tighten your stomach. We'll count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now loosen your stomach and breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now I want you to take a deep breath, hold it in, and tighten your shoulders. And we'll count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now loosen it and breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Again, breathe in. Breathe out. Now I want you to take a deep breath, hold it in, and tighten your face muscles. We'll count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now loosen your face muscles and breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now let's shift from feeling our physical bodies and move towards trying to recognize the difference between a thought and an emotion. So let's start first with a thought. Try to focus on the thoughts you're experiencing. Thoughts are all the just different things you're thinking about and not feelings such as anger, joy, sadness, or excitement. You could have many different types of thoughts going on at one time. Try to observe and connect to as many of your thoughts as possible. As you observe all the different types of thoughts going on with your psychology, try to observe which ones are easier and more pleasant. Now try to focus on which thoughts are less pleasant and harder for you. Now we're going to shift to emotions. I want you to think of your emotions, which are often connected to thoughts, like a trailer is connected to a car, but try to stay focused more on the emotions. The more difficult emotions may be fear or anger, sadness, anxiety, or guilt. The easier ones are more pleasant emotions, and they might be joy, peace, contentment, or hope. Focus on which ones you're experiencing. Okay, give it a few more seconds. All right, we're done. I want you to bring your attention back to the room. Thanks for doing this exercise with me, especially for those of you who don't find this easy to do. This is not something that many of us do on a regular basis. All right, let's go now together to your workbooks and answer the following questions from this contemplation exercise, which will continue to help us gain a greater awareness of our thoughts and our emotions. All right, now that you're done, please break into your groups of 3 and take 2 to 3 minutes each to discuss the answers you did in your workbook with your small group. Please remember to use your timer and ensure that you don't go over 3 minutes. Now, in this next section, I would like to talk about change, which will lay a foundation for us to build on over the next 7 weeks. Here's a question. Can people change? Consider a person you currently know who irritates you, and perhaps someone who has deeply hurt you. Do you think it's possible for that person to change? How about a criminal who continues to reoffend? Can they change? Or consider something about yourself, something that you would like to change, perhaps something that you fear or negatively affects you, gives you stress and holds you back from something that you want to have or do, or the emotion of loneliness that you maybe can't shrug off, or could be learning how to be more accepting of something that irritates you that you don't have control over. You know, for me, a big thing that bugged me was learning how to become more skilled in relationships. I so badly wanted to have more close friends and intimate relationships, but I found that I just did not have the skills to do something. And worse, I didn't believe it was possible. So at times, I would just accept that it was something I could not ever have. Now, there's a widespread societal view that people can't change. Most people don't believe that change is possible. And now, in rare cases, that might be true. But we are learning that indeed people can change, and they are changing when they're given the right environment and support to begin making baby steps simply because that's how we're designed. Now, I want to play a short clip to you to show what some of the frontiers of brain science are discovering about our ability to change. And as you watch this, pay close attention to what is being said about how the brain is neuroplastic and its ability to change.
I think we're now learning that in fact, the brain is changing all the time, that the brain is changing with everything we think, with everything we experience.
Mainstream medicine and science have seen the brain as fixed and described it as though it were a complex machine with parts, each of which perform one mental function in a single location in the brain. But what if the idea of the brain as machine or mechanism is not only wrong, but spectacularly wrong? Neuroplasticity changes everything. The brain is not a machine. It has to be understood on its own terms. And this is the remarkable story of the brain that changes itself.
So the idea is that just thinking will change your brain. And what that ultimately means is that one needs to be careful with what one thinks.
Thinking actually turns on genes inside neurons to form new connections between brain cells. And this idea is further complemented by brain scans which show that psychoanalytic, cognitive, and other psychotherapies also change the brain structure through the use of thought alone.
I think we're now learning that in fact, the brain is changing all the time, that the brain is changing with everything we think, with everything we experience. That plasticity is an intrinsic property of the brain.
To understand that we have within our hands this incredible power to drive changes in the brain that accounts for our behavior, that is in fact the very basis of what we are, of the person that we are. You know, what a gift.
The brain that I met in my travels turns out to be both a more resilient and a more vulnerable brain than we had imagined. By being more resilient, it stirs up an incredible amount of hope for people with all sorts of brain and psychological problems.
Thanks for watching that. You know, a decade ago, the behavioral science community would never make such claims that people can actually change. I'd like to check out another clip of a person named Dr. Mimi Silbert, who works with some of the society's toughest criminals. And she has proven that change is possible. When we first heard of this work, our team was so profoundly impacted, we had to go see it for ourselves. And we spent 2 days at Delancey House gaining a first-hand view as to what was occurring in people's lives. So check this out.
They lived a life of violence, hate, and crime.
Assault with a deadly weapon, burglary, a number of thefts, firearms, escape, you name it.
I've done seven terms, and been in prison up to almost 25 years.
I was using drugs and did it for about 10 years.
I have made terrible decisions my whole life.
So what made these criminals want to change? For the past 43 years, Mimi has headed the Delancey Street Foundation, an organization that offers violent criminals a second chance.
That's what Delancey Street's about. It's about trying to become the best of yourself after you've been the worst of yourself.
Delancey Street houses up to 500 residents right on the bay in San Francisco. Some are sent by court order, sentenced to prison. Others come willingly when they get out. Here they receive an education, an apartment, and a job. There's a restaurant, a moving company, and a finance department to run. But there's no professional staff. The residents do it all without any government funding.
When people say she's a force of nature, when people say she's resilient, it is because she is a woman of immense faith in people's ability to rise above their circumstances.
We change the outside of them, and so they develop a new outside, and then we say, that outside has helped so many people. It's what we call each one teach one. So you act as if you care. You act as if you're decent. You act as if all those things that you don't care about. And nobody knows why, but on some weird Tuesday at 3 o'clock or something, that person starts to care. And then everything starts to change. And when that starts to happen, that's when they say, that's what you mean by hope. And then it begins to internalize.
Now that was powerful. And it looks like change is not only possible, but happening for many people. All right, I'm curious. Are there any people in the group who have succeeded at making positive changes toward their psychological functions, who would be willing to share with the rest of the group? Some examples might be you learned something about being more accepting to something in your life that was very irritating or stressful. Or it could be that someone here has learned how to be more positive and less negative. Or maybe someone has learned to reduce their stress levels. Please keep your sharing to less than 2 minutes. And use the hourglass meter to help you stay within the time. All right, for those of you who shared, thanks for taking the risk and doing that. That was great work. All right, let's wrap up our time today by reviewing what we did. Please follow with me in your workbook. Number 1, our psychological functions are amazing and it makes up who we are. The health of my psychology will also determine the success I will have in my relationships, my work, and the overall quality of life. Number 2, my psychological functions move back and forth from being in a regulated to an escalated state. Escalated would be considered more painful or stressful. Becoming escalated is okay and very normal. But as long as we don't move into this state too often and stay there for prolonged periods of time, being that robs us of our happiness, hinders our ability to have healthy relationships, and negatively affects our workplace performance. Number 3, we now know our brains are neuroplastic, meaning we can make positive changes to our psychological functions, meaning that when we get into an escalated state, we can learn how to bring ourselves back to a regulated state using the de-escalation tools, which we will focus on and review in Lesson 2. And number 4, making positive changes to our psychological functions begin by developing awareness. You know, what's happening in me right now? We call this checking in and connecting with your thoughts and emotions. You see, once awareness occurs, we're able to make deliberate choices as to, do I want to stay in this escalated state and experience pain, or do I want to use my tools and move back towards a regulated state? Well, we have come to the end of the session. Thank you for being with me, and I sincerely mean that. I know that for some of you, this might be hard and difficult, but I appreciate that we're going through it. I want you to encourage each one of you to stay with me during this entire 7-week process, because each week I will work with you to increase your ability to make positive and lasting changes in your life. And I said earlier, no matter where you're at, this can benefit all of us. So from now to our next group session, I want you to go to your e-learning dashboard and complete each assignment, which is designed to help you stimulate new levels of awareness and begin creating healthier thoughts and emotions. At any time, if you require support in any way, reach out to our Health Masters team via email located on your dashboard, and they will arrange a time to talk to you in confidence or to even give you some technical support if you need it. And we will see you all for session 2.
Next week in session 2, Kim will introduce each of the de-escalation tools that will work to help us move from an escalated state back to a regulated state. And then he will take you into his personal life and demonstrate how a stressful situation created an escalated psychology and how he used the tools to bring him back to a regulated state.
Ooh. You know, when it comes to getting the job done in today's hyper-competitive marketplace, it can create a lot of demands on us. I just spent 30 minutes with this group right here, and let me tell you, this business has a lot of challenges ahead of them. You know, the pace of change at this breakneck speed has a potential to push us from a regulated state to an escalated state. And I came into this meeting feeling strong and regulated, but somewhere in there, I shifted into a really escalated state. So right now, I need to reach into that tool belt we talked about and use some of the tools. Come with me as I work to bring myself back down from this escalated state to a regulated state.
Kim demonstrates how his use of the 3 regulation tools brought him back to a regulated state within a 30-minute period.
All right, before I do some of my regulation exercises to bring me out of this escalated state, I want to start with a bit of a review.